everyone, how are you? My name is Dietrich. I am the cheese doctor, and welcome to my first Ask the Cheese Doctor. As you might know, I make cheese, and I have a YouTube channel with more than 10,000 followers, and I won two international awards so far, and I reckon there are gonna be more. I'm competing. I didn't compete this year because of COVID, but today I wanted to start my first program in English. Um, people from my audience has asked me if I could, because I have my program in Spanish, so they have asked me if I could make the same program in English, and I want to do it. I don't expect to come many people here in my program, in my first program, of course. Um, Sorry about my English. Anyway, English is not my first language, but even though I speak very well, I try to do my best. My intention is that you learn how to make cheese. If you follow me and if you go to my show every week, I have it every week, every Saturday at 11 o'clock New Zealand time. If you go to my show, surely you're gonna learn how to make cheese because I teach in a way that you guys can learn. I don't hide anything. My intention is not to sell you anything. My intention is you to learn how to make cheese. Of course, I have a website. I have all my products and stuff. If you want to buy them, it's up to you. If you want to buy them, you're really welcome. So the idea is that you come to my show. If you want to ask any questions, you're more than welcome. I have some questions here. Today we're gonna speak about the milk and what is the best milk to make cheese. And when we make cheese, one of the problems that we have is how to choose the best milk. And because we don't know, and we don't know how to make cheese, very frequently we choose the wrong milk, and the milk doesn't coagulate, and therefore we don't get any cheese. And the cheese, or what we get is ricotta. So the thing is that I'm going to teach you how to make cheese. All the programs are going to be in English, of course, and I will teach you how to make cheese at home. You don't have to have any fancy appliances, just whatever you have in your kitchen. You can have your pot, some colanders and stuff. And I'm going to teach you today the best milk, how to make cheese. We're going to speak about a little bit of chemistry. It's not a biggie. We're going to speak about a little what is the composition of milk, because you need to know what is happening into the milk. And knowing what is happening into the milk, you will know what's happening into your cheese. And then you will be able, if you have the knowledge, you will be able to sort it out if you have any problem during the process. Okay. So as I said, my name is Dietrich. I am the cheese doctor, and today is my first program in English. Okay, let me see. If you want to comment on my show, if you guys are watching from Instagram, I would suggest go to YouTube or to Facebook, because the platform that I'm using doesn't allow anyone to go to. It doesn't allow any comments. Okay, so if you're on Instagram, going to make any comments, you're not going to be able to. You have to migrate to YouTube or to Instagram. To Facebook, okay? And you will be able to make any question. Today I have some questions from my audience, and well, we're gonna answer this question. But first of all, we're going to go to the class. We're gonna speak about milk, okay? So let me share the screen. I would suggest, as I said, the program is in English. If you guys speak Spanish, doesn't matter. But the comments, I would appreciate if they're in English, because this is I have my program in Spanish. And if you miss the program in Spanish, doesn't matter. You can come next week. But if you want to go here, you want to attend here, you're more than welcome. But please do it in English. I would appreciate it. Okay. Okay. If you don't know how to speak English, well, never mind. Doesn't matter. If you don't know how to write English, write me in Spanish, because most of my audience is in Spanish. I understand that. Make the comment in Spanish. I will answer it in English. Okay, no worries. Okay, so let me share the screen. and I'm going to show you a small presentation. And I hope the audio is all right. If you guys can comment on it and let me know how's the audio, I would appreciate it. Okay. Here's the screen. Now we're live. All right. We're going to speak about the milk. Okay. Let me go to the presentation. Here we are. Wait. All right. Okie dokie. Now, this is my first program in English, and we're going to speak about the milk. As we know, to make cheese, we need milk, and milk can be any type of milk. Can be cow's milk, goat milk, sheep milk, buffalo milk, even human milk, camel milk, horse milk. Doesn't matter, because the milk is an emulsion that has a lot of elements inside. It has protein, it has lactose. The lactose in milk is the sugar. Okay, we're gonna speak about a little bit later on. Okay, in our as I said, the milk, and I just wrote the concept here. Milk is an emulsion. It's an emulsion that has a lot of stuff inside. What is this stuff? We have milk fat globules. They are floating into the watery environment. Okay, we call this the aqueous part of the milk. Milk have protein. We have fats. This is the substrate. This is the solid part. But it also has water. It has water in an 85% more or less. Okay, and also have sugars and proteins and a lot of minerals. Okay, so if you see the milk, when you see a glass of milk, when you have a look to a glass of milk, you see we see that the milk is normally white, right? White, a little bit cream. It's a little bit creamy, and it's creamy because the milk inside have something that we call carotenes. These carotenes give color to the milk. So when we see a glass of milk, as I said, it's white. But if we watch it really carefully under the microscope, we're gonna see small yellow particles, especially if the milk is raw or if the milk is non-homogenized. If the milk is non-homogenized or raw, we're gonna see this yellow spot. This yellow spot is fat that is floating on the milk. When we make cheese, these globules normally are floating just into the milk. If we watch a little bit closer, 10,000 times, we're going to see the big yellow spots, which is the fat, but we're going to see also this black spot. This black spot is protein. In cheese making, we have several types of proteins, but the most important one is the casein. The casein is a type of protein that we use to make our cheeses. I'm not going to go into details for so far, because my intention is you to learn the basics. Okay, first of all, the basic of how to make cheese. So this fat, we're going to go a little bit deeper in later on. Okay, so this yellow spot is the casein, and we call each spot, we call it micelle. It's a micelle. This micelle has a structure that I'm going to show it to you later on. And the idea is to grab all this casein, put it all together, and when we put it together, we can coagulate the milk, and later on we get our cheese. So far, as I said, summarizing, in our milk we have fat globules, we have the aqueous part, which is the water, we have sugar, which is the lactose of the milk or our future cheese, and we have proteins and minerals, and of course we have vitamins. Okay, when we make cheese, a cheese making process is basically the dehydration of the milk. It's a controlled dehydration of the milk. So we use certain type of chemicals to do that. But summarize in a nutshell, a cheese making process is a controlled dehydration of our milk. Okay, we have a lot of stuff inside, and this stuff I refer as solids. So when we make cheese, we have, I said 85, but these guys are saying here 87, 88%. Okay, and only 13% in global numbers, in round numbers, we have 87% of water and 12% of solid. When we make cheese, we take most of the water out, okay, and we get all the solid. This solid, we call it substrate, or we also call it curd. And normally we call it curd. Substrate, we call it in the scientific, in scientific terms. So our curd, we call it the milk solids. It's all the solid part that is in our cheese. In this solid, in this curd, we have 38% lactose. We still have, when we make the cheese, when the cheese is very fresh, that is only is curd. When we curdle the milk, we have 38% of lactose. Okay, we have approximately 30% fat, casein 22%. We have whey, of course, because it's still into the cheese, and we have a 5%, 6% of ash. This percentage might varies depending on the type of cheese that we make. And when the cheese is older, the lactose tends to reduce. Okay, it tends to reduce. But in general terms, with this percentage, this is more or less average values. Okay. When we measure the quality of milk, for example, if we have a farm and we want to measure and we're gonna get paid for our milk, we get paid for milk solids, taking in account all these parameters. Okay, not the water. The water, the company doesn't. The company that pays you, in this case, is Fonterra, that pays you for the milk, doesn't take in account the water. It takes only the milk fat. The solids. Okay, the milk solid. In winter, the milk has more fat because the cows doesn't drink too much water, so they produce a lot of, and they eat grass. The milk that they produce is a little bit more content of fat. In summer, it's hot. The milk, the cows eat or drink more water, so the fat content tends to reduce a little bit. So, but this is cyclic, and we have to take this in consideration when we make our cheeses. Okay, let's go to the last. We're gonna speak about the most important one. The most important elements in milk or in our cheese is the fat, the lactose, and the casein. And we're going to speak about it a little bit. So let's speak about the lactose, which is the next screen. Okay. As you say, the lactose is the sugar that is in our cheese. Lactose, when we make cheese, the lactose tends to transform into elements, glucose and galactose, in general terms. Okay, in our body or in the calf bodies, they have an enzyme, and we also have it. We have an enzyme called lactase. This lactase is able to transform the lactose or the sugar in two elements, glucose and galactose. It tends to metabolize it. When we metabolize it, we are able to eat cheese. But sometimes our body is not able to metabolize the lactose because we don't have the proper level of this enzyme called lactase. Okay, and this is when the problems come. When we don't have this enzyme, or we have low levels of lactase, and we're not able to metabolize the lactose, it gets fermented into our colon, and we get discomfort, we get diarrhea, and okay, so this is the reason why people don't eat, or several people is not able to eat cheese, especially fresh cheeses, because fresh cheeses inside, when the cheese is finished, it still have a 15% of lactose inside. So this 15% of lactose, when we eat the cheese, will affect our body or digestive tract, because we don't have this enzyme called lactase. Okay, right. And what is the role of the lactose in cheese making? When we make cheese, we have the milk, and into the milk we have lactic bacteria, or we call it also lactic cultures. These lactic cultures eat the lactose that is into the curd, okay, or into the milk. They eat the lactose. At the beginning, they eat the, especially when we use whey to make cheese, that the bacteria is still alive, and we use the whey from the last batch, the bacteria is still alive. When we put into the milk, the bacteria is gonna eat the lactose of or which is the sugar of the milk, and will start to acidify the milk. The process is as follows: the lactic culture eat the lactose and produce lactic acid. This lactic acid tends to lower the pH. It tends to make the curd more acidic. This is the process. And when we make cheese, we control this pH, we control this acidity at our level, according to our needs. So when we make this cheese, it's very important that you measure the pH, and generally what we do is we drain the whey at a pH target. For example, in fresh cheeses, we weigh off, or we drain the whey at pH 6.1, but it will depend on the type of cheese that you make. When we make feta, for example, we have to weigh off at pH 4.6. When we make mozzarella, we have to weigh off at pH depends 5.4, 5.4, 5.3. But it will be. I will tell you this later on, okay, in other programs. So what you need to understand is that the lactose is the sugar of the milk, and the lactic cultures that we have to use, or they are native into the milk. If we use raw milk, these lactic cultures will feed of the lactose and will produce acid, lowering the pH or getting the curd more acidified. Okay, they will develop acid, and this acid will lower the pH, will make the curd more acidic. And it's a paradox, because when we make this process and we let the bacteria to develop acid, at the end of the day, this acid kills the bacteria. So it's a paradox, because the bacteria is producing something that is killing her. So, but that's life. Okay, the other element when we make cheese is the fat, okay, which is in the milk. When we have the milk, we have three types of fat. This is not very important, but I'm gonna say it to you. We have approximately a 65% of saturated fat, a 32% of monosaturated fat, and a 3% of polysaturated fat. This fat, we call it triglycerides. Okay, we as a and see, this is the triglyceride or triglyceride. I don't know how to well pronounce this in English, but anyway. It says here, milk fat globules are made up of phospholipid layers. These phospholipid layers are these ones that are here, right? There are three of them. And into the this core of fat, we have protein, whey, off and stuff, sugars, etc. You don't need to go so deep in this because it's not very important. The thing, what you need to know is that the fat is the what developed the flavor in cheese. If the cheese or if the milk have a little bit more fat, our future cheese will be yummier. It's going to be better cheese. Of course, we have to follow certain parameters. Each milk have a certain percentage of fat. For example, cow's milk has a 3.4%, 3.5% of fat. Casein, protein have approximately 3.4 as well. And each type of milk has different percentage of fat. Okay, this is what you need to understand. And sometimes we add, when we make cheese, we take the fat out or put more fat depending on the type of cheese that we want to make. Okay, we call this standardization. We're going to standardize the milk, but we're going to see that in the future in another program. What you need to know is that the fat is responsible for developing flavor in cheese. Okay, and when we make cheese, especially with non-homogenized milk and raw milk, this fat tends to go to the surface of the milk. Tends to, and sometimes we skim it, and sometimes we just stir the milk to dissolve it into the body of the milk and make the cheese. For example, when we make Parmesan or Parmigiano Reggiano style cheese, we take all the fat and we skim the fat and we use skim milk. This is what the recipe states. So we have sometimes when we make double cream brie, we have to put more fat. But this decision is ours as cheesemakers. So we have to. We are the one who's going to decide according to the recipe that we're using. Okay. And the other element is the protein. Okay. As I said, remember these black spots that we use here, that we have here? Okay. If we go closer to the microscope, each black spot looks like this. We call this casein micelle. So this casein micelle is like a globe. It's like a globule, okay, like a globule. But it has a lot of, we call it little balls or something like that. And this is protein, okay. This little hair that is here, that you guys see here, is the imagine that we have all these black spots, but these black spots, because of due to this, let's call it hair, in the scientific term is kappa casein. It's a type of protein, okay, but this hairy structure avoid all the globules to go to stick together, okay. So they because they have an electric charge, ions and stuff, and this electric charge tends to avoid these micelles to stick together, okay. When we curdle the milk, the enzyme that we use is chymosin. This chymosin break the molecule of casein, shaving all this hairy structure, right? And when we shave this micelles on the outside of when we shave the micelle, this hairy structure disappears, and there is an electrical imbalance into the protein molecule or into the casein micelle, and they tend to attract each other, and this is the reason why the milk curdles. Okay, when we see the hairy structure here. Okay, when we use the enzyme, which is the rennet, we shave the hair. Let's call it in a simple way. We shave just this hairy structure, and the molecule looks like this, and there is an electrical disbalance, and let me go back to because of this electrical imbalance, these molecules tend to aggregate each other, and it's when we form the curd. Okay. Well, this is more or less what I wanted to tell you about the milk. And next week at 11 o'clock, I'm going to make my Ask the Cheese Doctor number 2, and we're going to speak about pasteurization and the best way to pasteurize. I'm going to give you an advance. When we make cheese, we have to pasteurize the milk, but we have to pasteurize. We can pasteurize in certain levels of temperatures and waiting time. I'm going to explain you a little bit about it. And when we make your future cheeses, you're going to be able, because you're going to be able to pasteurize your milk at home. I'm going to teach you how to do it and the best way to cool the milk. I mean, I'm going to teach you how to do it at home and how to do it industrially. Okay, so don't miss the next program if you want to carry on learning how to make cheese, because for sure you're going to learn with me. Okay. Now we're going to make a QA. We're going to make a QA questions and answers. Okay. If you guys have any questions, please come to ask me whatever you want. No worries. I will answer. I will be very pleased to answer. Let me go here. Wait. Tamara Rodriguez. Hi, Tamara. How are you? Welcome to my show. All right. There is a question. Okay, Tamara. Tamara says, I'm gonna put it. Let me first. Let me stop the screen. Okie dokie. Okay, and let me hide them banners and stuff. Okay. Now here you are, Tamara. Tamara, welcome to my show. Thanks for coming. We're gonna be here every Saturday at 11 o'clock New Zealand time. Okay. So this is your first time here. What is the difference in result when using vegetarian rennet? We call it. It's not cuajo. It's rennet. Okay. So when we make cheese, the rennet. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper. The rennet is an enzyme. Okay, it's basically chemosin. This chemosin break the molecule of protein. Okay, and make it smaller. I'm gonna tell you till this level. Sometimes, and this rennet comes from the calf stomach of the cow. The little babies, we use these little babies' stomachs. Of course, we have to kill them, and we use the stomach. That's the reason why the babies, when they throw up milk, solidified milk, which is curd, because they have the lactose inside their stomach. The same happened with the calf, with the little babies, and this is called calf, the calf cattle. So this calf, they have this enzyme into their stomach, and we use this enzyme, which is chemosin, to make the cheese. This is from animal origin, but sometimes, because it was very hard to kill the calf, because if we kill the calf, there is a future bull that is going to produce meat and everything. So the cheese making industry started to use fungus or vegetable products to make cheese, which has basically the same effect. Okay, so difference between animal rennet or vegetable rennet, there is no difference. Okay, the only difference is that people, the vegetarian people that don't eat meat or don't eat beef, they always when they buy the cheese, if the cheese says animal rennet, they're not gonna buy it. If the cheese says vegetable rennet, they will buy it because they're vegetarian. This is the only reason, basically. Okay, so the intensity of the rennet is the same. So if you're gonna make cheese, you can use vegetable rennet or animal rennet. I personally use animal rennet. Well, because I have a kilo of animal rennet, and that I bought one time ago, and I still using. I had rennet for 40,000 liters of milk. I already spent 500 grams during all these years. What you need to know is if you're going to buy rennet, keep it into the freezer. Okay, if it is solid rennet or powder rennet, if it is powder, keep it into the freezer. Don't keep it into the fridge. Like, the idea is to keep it, the powder rennet, to keep it as cold as possible. If you buy liquid rennet, vegetable rennet, or animal rennet, it is liquid, don't put it into the freezer, put it into the fridge. And you can preserve it for 2 years, 1 year. Okay? I have this rennet, it's been with me for 2 years, and it's still strong, very strong. But I always keep it into the freezer. Okay? Okay, let's go. Manai Bagwazir. Hi, Manai. Welcome. I have seen you into my show. I reckon I have a question from you here. That I was gonna. Let me see if I have it. I don't remember. Yeah, I have you here. An old question that you asked me about the butter cask cheese, and I answered this question. But anyway, I'm gonna answer your question. I hope I don't fail with you. Okay, let's see. What is your question? By the way, welcome to my show. I can see the question. Wait. I can't see your question anymore. Can I make cheese with homogenized milk? I reckon this is your question. Your question disappeared. I don't know why. Okay, look. It's possible to make cheese with homogenized milk. Wait. Hi, doctor. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Let's go to this question first. I want to know, are there alternatives for Comté cheese and Gruyere cheese? What do you mean by alternative? I don't know what are you referring to. Gruyere cheese is a French cheese. Okay. Comté is more compact. But they have different recipes. I mean, different type of making it. And when you use Comté, when you use Gruyere, you use Propione Shermani, it's a bacteria. And there are different recipes for each cheeses. Comté cheese is a semi-hard cheese. No, it's not. It's a hard. It's not so hard. It's not so hard. It's not as Parmigiano Reggiano, but it's hard, like Manchego. I would say that. And yeah, we have alternative maybe. For Gruyere, you can use. Let me see. According to the texture, Gruyere, you could use Gouda, Emmental, according to the test, they both melt. Conte, and well, Conte is very good. I have used Conte, I have eaten Conte as well, but I would save Manchego. Manchego is a Spanish cheese. We have more or less the same texture of Conte, I reckon. Yeah, this is what I can. This is what I can say. What I can say about it. Okay. Here, another question from Manal. Can we make cheese from homogenized milk? Yes, you can. Yes, you can, Manal. Make sure, and I tell you why. When we use cow's milk, the milk is non-homogenized. When we use cow's milk, when we use goat milk, the milk is partially homogenized. When we use sheep milk, the milk is fully homogenized. Of course, each type of cheese will have a different texture because it's a different type of milk. I would suggest, if you're gonna make, for example, you can use homogenized milk to make Roquefort. But make sure, if you use homogenized milk, make sure that you use calcium chloride, because the homogenized milk will give you, unless the milk is raw, I would also use calcium chloride. Okay, if it is raw, if it is raw, I wouldn't use calcium chloride because the milk is raw. But if the milk is pasteurized and is from sheep, is sheep milk, pasteurized sheep milk, which has lost the calcium, I would suggest to add a little bit of calcium chloride to get a stronger curd. Okay. If you want to make pasta filata cheese with homogenized milk, forget it. You won't be able to do it. You have to make pasta filata cheese, which is mozzarella. You have to use non-homogenized milk compulsorily. No question asked. You have to use non-homogenized milk. But if you want to make another type of cheeses like manchego, fresh cheeses, Gruyere, you can use homogenized milk, but you have to use calcium chloride. As a general rule, because I always use cow's milk, I always use non-homogenized milk, and I don't have any problems, because if I use homogenized milk, I have to add calcium chloride, and it's more problems in the process. So I prefer to use non-homogenized milk, and that's it. As problem solved, and I will get a strong curd. Okay. Omar, how are you, Omar? Hi, doctor, how are you? Can we make cheese from almond milk? Yes, you can, but it's not cheese making. It's because when you make cheese with almond milk, it's a different process, Omar. To curdle the milk, you can use rennet, because it's not these proteins. You have to use another products. You have to use to curdle the milk. You have to use agar. Agar is an algae. It's an algae that you use to curdle the milk. I don't call this cheese making. Of course, some vegan people use almond milk, oat milk, because it's healthier, but we have to die of something, right? So, but anyway, to answer your question, you can use almond milk, but what you're gonna get is ricotta. If you want to thicken the milk, you have to use pectin or agar, or maybe you can use tapioca as well to make it thicker, and you have to put it into the fridge to cool them up. And once it's cool, it will get solid. If you leave it outside and it's exposed to the heat, it's gonna melt again. So, as I said, I don't call it cheese making. Okay, Manal, sorry. Manal. Are there alternatives for Comté cheese and Gruyere cheese? I mean, the same teas, because I don't find Comté and Gruyere. The same teas. What do you mean by teas? You don't find Comté and Gruyere. Well, go with Manchego. Manchego is good. Another cheese that you can use is for Gruyere. If you don't find Gruyere, look for Emmental. Emmentaler is a good cheese. Another cheese that I would say, all these Dutch cheeses, they're very good as well. Manchego would be one option. Okay, it's my personal opinion. I hope you get what I mean. Well, I'm just thinking about the texture of the cheese. The Gruyere is a semi-hard cheese, and it's melty. Okay, I'm looking for a similar texture, which is Emmentaler give you this texture. Gouda give you the same texture as well, and more or less the same flavor. Raclette cheese as well, because it melts. You can use it as a Gruyere. As a matter of fact, when you make fondue, you mix Gruyere cheese, raclette cheese, and another cheese I don't remember. Okay, for Comté is French, I reckon. It's French cheese, but it has more or less, it's hard. It has more or less the same texture as the Manchego. I can't think of another cheese right now. Parmigiano is too hard. Yeah, this is the only cheese that comes into my mind. I hope I have answered the question. Sorry about that. What we want to do is I'm going to write down your question, and I'm going to give you a better answer next time. Okay? Replacement for Comté. For Gruyere, I already told you. Okay, but the replacement for Comté, this is the only cheese that comes into my mind. Okay. Next week I'll have a better answer for you. Okay, I have another question here. And Maddie asked me, good day, Dr. Quesero. Please, what is mesophilic lactic culture? Is that Flora Darnica? Well, and how can I clean and sanitize my pH meter? Okay, this is a very good question. Let me go. I have it into my questions. If you have another one, don't worry. Flora Darnica, I mean, mesophilic cultures is basically two types of cultures: Lactobacillus lactis, Lactococcus lactis, and Lactococcus lactis sublactis, and Lactococcus lactis subcremoris. Okay, this is what we call mesophilic cultures. These are other cultures that they call a Flora Darnica that are different, with different names than the ones that I already mentioned, which is Lactococcus lactis diacetylactis, Viovar. Anyway, mesophilic culture is only these two cultures that I mentioned. The other ones, this is what we call Flora Darnica. Okay. Is the cheesemaker decision how to use them? How to use this type of cultures? You can use it as you wish. You can mix it if you want. It's your decision. And this is the recipe of the cheese of the cheese that you make. Okay. How to sanitize the pH meter? Very easy. Manal, sorry, don't remember her name. Asma. Okay, Asma. When you make the cheese, always put your pH meter into chlorine solution, 200 parts per million. Okay, this is the concentration, 200 parts per million of chlorine solution. How do you get this concentration? Very easy. Grab bleach, okay, and put 2 tablespoons of bleach in half a liter of water. Prepare the solution and always put them, for example, your pH meter is this one. Don't stick it till here, just cover the part that's going to be in contact with the cheese. Okay, try to always sanitize your pH meter before use. What I do is I always keep it in this chlorine solution, always. And when I use it, and the advantage of this chlorine solution is that when it gets in contact with the cheese, it degrades aromatically, instantaneously. So it's very good. And this is the allowed concentration of chlorine in cheese making, because it degrades instantaneously. If you use you don't need to rinse it. If you use a stronger concentration, you're gonna have to rinse your equipment or whatever you use, or your pH meter, because it won't degrade when it gets in contact with the cheese. So you have to be careful. Okay. How do you do? And it's also very important when you make this type of cheeses, and when you measure the pH, you have to check that the concentration of your chlorine solution is effectively 200 parts per million. How do you do that? You have to buy like a stripes in the cheese making stores. I don't have it in my website. I'm gonna put him in. It's a stripe that you cut a little bit of paper. It's a paper that you stick into the chlorine solution, and it will get color. Depending on the concentration of the chlorine solution, the color will be darker or lighter. And there's a scale, and it will tell you if you are above 200 parts per million, it's going to be darker. It's going to be, if you are below 200 parts per million, it's going to be lighter than the compare parameter. So it's very easy to measure. Okay. Okay. Another question that I have here. I have one question. The butter, Manal, is your question about butter case? Okay, the pH of butter case I told you was around 5, right? Before way off. Okay, and the pH for mascarpone that you asked also is the isoelectric point of the curve, which is 4.6. You can reach it. 4.6 is the minimum. You can reach 4 if you want, but your mascarpone is going to be a little bit more acidic. Okay. And Martin, does the animal rennet need to be kept in ice box? Yes, it's advisable that you have your rennet all the time in the fridge. You have to keep it cool, because if you keep it cool, it will last longer. Okay. If you guys are using powder rennet, don't mix it with water and leave it in the fridge. No, keep it in powder into the freezer and use it just right before you're gonna curdle the milk, because when we use the powder rennet, it will start to denaturing. Okay, so after 2 minutes, the capability of the rennet get lost 50%. So it's very important that you use it just right before you're gonna curdle the milk. Okay, if you leave it for 5 minutes, when you put into the milk, it's not gonna curdle the milk, or it's gonna curdle very, very, very poorly. Okay, so be careful with that. Use the rennet just right before you're gonna curdle the milk. Okay, I have another questions. We are almost done. Matt, do you have a recommendation for pumps to use in milk line system to move the milk from tank to vat with a premium on the absolute minimum agitation and gentle handling of the milk possible. This is a smaller scale production facility. The vat max about 200 gallons, okay, and the milk will be moving around 30 feet. Okay, if you have, Matt, 210 gallons vat, and this is about how much? About 800 liters, more or less. Okay. The idea is when you use pumps, it's true the pumps can affect the milk, but it's gonna pass only once. So I would say the capacity of the pump, if you have 210 vat, try to fill up all the vat maybe in 15 minutes, no more than that. So you have to make the numbers. And I would say if you have a pump that can pump I would say a pump, the good pump, 2,500 liters per hour, you can fill this vat of 210 gallons in maybe half an hour, 20 minutes. This is a good time, right? Of course, remember that you have to pasteurize as well. So you have to pasteurize the milk first, and your pasteurizer have to have a pump that is not so fast. It doesn't flow the milk so fast into the pasteurizer because the milk is not going to get pasteurized. So you have to follow the flow of the pasteurization. You have the pasteurizer have to have a minimum flow that allows the milk to be pasteurized. If the pump is too strong, it will pass through the pasteurizer and it won't pasteurize the milk. So you have to, especially if you are using plates pasteurizers that use inter-exchangers. So I would say it will depend on the pasteurizing process as well. If you're gonna use already pasteurized milk, which is very hard because you wanna use 210 watt, you have to use raw milk and pasteurize it. So if you're gonna pasteurize the milk into the vat, you can use this type of pump. I would say a pump that is able to pump 2,500 liters per hour would be all right. You will be able to fill up the vat in 20 minutes. And once the milk is there, you pasteurize into the vat and carry on. Okay, this is another way. But it's by batch, not by exchangers, heat exchangers. Okay. Manal said, in my country, hot, what you advise kind Rennet to use? Okay, I understand. You can use either one, Manal. Don't worry. You can use vegetable if the country is hot. I live in a hot country as well. And for example, in Australia, we have up to 45 degrees. We can remember that you keep the rennet into the fridge. As a matter of fact, the rennet acts better in hot environments. If you had 40 degrees, it will work perfectly. Both rennets work perfectly. Don't worry about it. So you can use either vegetable or rennet or animal rennet. Of course, if you don't eat meat, try to use vegetable rennet because it's according to your belief. But if you eat cattle or you eat beef, don't worry, you can use either one. Okay. Okay. I reckon we have 6 minutes to go. We have 2 more questions. Ali, how long is whey good for in the fridge? I made cheese, then ricotta. How long can the whey sit in the fridge before it goes bad? I was saving it to make caramel, but having the time to get into it. All right, look. How long is the whey good in the fridge? I would say max 3 days. Remember, when you make when you make cheese and you get the whey, okay, you recover a little bit of whey to make your next cheese. You have in this cheese 85% of rennet that you use, and you have lactic cultures, but you also have acid. Okay, you have acid, lactic acid, and you also have the bacteria, the lactic bacteria that you use to ripen your milk. If you put the milk into your fridge, the process will carry on. Okay, you have to, and the lactic bacteria will carry on acidifying the whey. No milk, because it will have what you have is whey. The lactic bacteria will carry on eating the lactose and producing lactic acid. There's going to be a moment that the lactic acid is going to be too much for the bacteria to bear it. So therefore the bacteria is going to die. Okay, this happens in 3 days, more or less. Okay, so the maximum time that you have to have your whey into your fridge is 3 days. However, if you want to carry on using whey, which I do not recommend because you're not going to have a standard product, I would suggest to use lactic cultures and start the process from scratch. But anyway, if you're going to use whey, don't put into the fridge, put into the freezer, so it gets frozen. If you have your lactic culture frozen, it can last up to 1 month. After 1 month, they're going to start losing their power. You're going to be able to use it anyway, but it's going to be, after a month, it's going to be the intensity or the strength of the whey or the bacteria, it's going to start being reduced. Okay, that's it. This is your question. Okay, Anna, another question from Anna. Can I mix evening milk that I put in the cheese vat one night before with the morning milk for making cheese? Yes, you can. There's no problem with that. Of course, Anna, try to use it as fast as possible, because you can have you might be victim of bacteriophage. Bacteriophage is a phenomenon that I'm going to speak later on, but it's an attack produced by a virus which kills the lactic acid bacteria. Okay, so it kills the lactic culture. So and it happens because when we store milk for a long time, it will affect your process. It will affect your milk, and this virus will eventually kill the bacteria. So you have to use the milk. I would suggest to use the milk as fast as possible. Okay. And another question. This is the last one. Greg, is it possible to make goat boucheron from chèvre if it was made from a small local dairy? Look, Greg, and when you make boucheron, okay, boucheron is a French cheese. When you make boucheron, or boqueron, I don't know how to pronounce it in French, you reach a certain level of acidity. And the boqueron cheese, or the boucheron cheese, the goat boucheron, has white mold on it. This white mold, you don't have in the chèvre that you're going to make. But if you have chèvre that you already bought it, because it's a different process. You can't ripen or age the chèvre to get boqueron. No, you can't do that, because boqueron has white mold in it the Chevrolet doesn't have by mold. So this is one reason, and it's a different process. It's different pH levels. So I would suggest not to use it. Start the process from scratch when you make Boquerón cheese or when you make Chevrolet cheese. Okay. And the last question, Maria, I have 5 gallons of sheep milk and kefir for culturing. What cheese recipe should I make today? Well, if you have 5 gallons of sheep milk, make sheep cheese. If you are able to find the penicillium, you can make Roquefort. But if you want to practice, I would suggest make a fresh cheese or cured cheese. There is a cheese that we call it cabrales, or queso curado as well, which is cured cheese, or aged cheese. You can make the cheese with the 5 gallons. With 5 gallons, you're gonna get about 10 kilos. Let me see. 5 gallons is 20 liters. You can have 2 kilos of cheese. Make aged cheese. Make it. Put on the kefir. Use it for culturing. The kefir is very good. The kefir, if it's yogurt, it's all right. Use it for culturing. Culture for 1 hour. Make the cheese normally. Mold it, press it, and let it age for, I would say, for 3 months. The first week, leave it for one or 2 weeks to let it dry and do outside. Of course, you have to salt it first, remember. Salt it, and follow the process. And then cure it for 3 months. You're going to get an aged cheese very good. Okay? Okay. That's all, folks. If I don't have any more questions, let me see. I really want to thank you, all of you guys, for coming to my first show. I will be next week. If you want to carry on coming, you are more than welcome. You're going to learn for sure how to make cheese with me. If you want to visit my YouTube channel, Doctor Quesero TV, or if you want to go to my social media, which is my Instagram at Doctor Quesero, or my Facebook page, Doctor Quesero as well. If you want to visit my website, drquesero.com, you're more than welcome. Have a look. I have a lot of articles over there. Of course, they're in Spanish, but you can just copy them and translate it into English. The website is in English, it's in Spanish, sorry, but there are translators in Google that you can read simultaneously in the language that you speak. From now on, all my videos are going to be in Spanish because this is my first language, but they're going to be translated into English and Chinese and Hindi, okay, and French. So I'm just taking care of it. But I'm going to have 2 shows, the show in Spanish and the show in English. You can come every week if you want to learn how to make cheese. If you want to buy my book, it's in Amazon, but it's in Spanish. So if you want, I have the book in English as well. But if you want the book in English, my book, which is to teach you how to make cheese, and I have all the South American recipes, from Venezuela and Colombia, especially. I also have cheeses from all other parts of the world. I have Parmigiano, Manchego, Monster cheese. A lot of recipes. Mozzarella, the culture mozzarella and the express mozzarella. I have a lot of cheeses as well. Go to my website, have a look to the recipes that I have over there. And if you want to buy the book in English, just send me a message through Messenger or Instagram or whatever, and we can organize the version in English because I also have it in English. I don't have it in on sale, only in blurb. It's in English. You can find it in blurb in the English version. Okay, so see you next week. And as I always say to everyone, Thanks for coming. See you next week. And eat cheese, because life without cheese is like a hug without a kiss. Okay? See you next week. And once again, thank you for coming to my show.